All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we are opening the pages to one of the absolute most influential texts in all of human history, the Gospel of Matthew. And look, we're not just reading some old story here. We're decoding a narrative that literally turned the ancient world upside down. We're going to walk through an account that has shaped entire cultures, inspired billions of people, and gives us a really profound look into the life of Jesus of Nazareth. So, whether you know these texts like the back of your hand or you're looking at them with totally fresh eyes, this journey is going to help us pull out those massive core themes of compassion, faith, and just radical transformation.
So, picture it. A peaceful, starry night, setting the stage for a miraculous birth that's about to alter the course of history forever. According to the text, Jesus is born in Bethlehem during the days of King Herod. But, this isn't just a quiet, isolated little event. Far from it. Wise men from the east are watching the skies. They spot the star, like a giant celestial signpost, and they travel all the way to Jerusalem, straight up asking where they can find the new king of the Jews. I mean, this single event instantly stirs up the entire region. And for a tyrant like King Herod, yeah, this wasn't good news at all. It was a direct political threat, signaling a monumental shift in power had just kicked off.
Now, the writer here doesn't just have Jesus arriving out of nowhere. Not at all. He's deeply, deeply rooted in history. Matthew meticulously breaks it down into this perfect structure. 14 generations from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the Babylonian exile, and another 14 from the exile straight to the birth of Jesus. And here is a fascinating little detail for you. In ancient Hebrew, the letters of King David's name actually add up to the number 14. It's brilliant. Matthew is basically using this 14-generation structure as a historical roadmap to prove Jesus is the ultimate son of David the world had been waiting for. And that historical buildup beautifully sets the stage for the child's arrival. When those wise men finally get there, they bring these highly, highly symbolic gifts. We're talking gold for a king, frankincense for a priest, and myrrh, which is actually a spice used for burial. Kind of a heavy foreshadowing of his ultimate sacrifice right there, isn't it? But really, the most profound gift is his prophetic name, Emmanuel, translating literally to God with us. It's this massive promise of comfort and presence for absolutely everyone, and it lays the foundation for literally everything else that happens in the text. Fast forward a bit, and as Jesus grows up, the story shifts over to the River Jordan. Out in the wilderness, you've got John the Baptist, wearing camel's hair, eating locusts, the whole 9 yards, and he's preaching repentance. But when Jesus comes to the water to be baptized, something truly incredible happens. The moment he comes up out of the water, the text describes this absolute sensory explosion. The heavens tear open, the Spirit of God descends like a dove, and a divine voice lovingly calls out, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." Bam. That right there marks the true kickoff of his public journey. And that journey leads him to a hillside, where Jesus delivers what's arguably his most famous discourse ever. But I really want you to notice how radical this is. In a harsh, brutal Roman world that totally glorifies power and dominance, Jesus comes in and just completely inverts the societal pyramid. He blesses the meek, the merciful, the peacemakers, and calls them the children of God. He is taking the traditional ideas of success and flipping them totally upside down, offering this stunning new vision where the gentle are the ones who actually inherit the earth. And you know what? He doesn't just preach this new kingdom. He goes out and demonstrates it. He does the absolute unthinkable by reaching out and physically touching a contagious, outcast leper just to heal him. He cures a Roman centurion's servant from miles away without even being there. He even bends the forces of nature to his will. I mean, when a violent storm is about to sink his friend's boat, he simply rebukes the wind and the sea, and instantly, a great calm. His intense compassion is honestly only matched by his absolute, total authority. So how do you explain these mind-bending ideas to everyday people? Jesus did it by speaking in parables. But these weren't just cute, simple stories. They were deeply subversive, relatable illustrations hiding massive spiritual truths. The text points out that he spoke all these things to the crowds in parables, which actually fulfilled ancient prophecies about uttering things hidden since the foundation of the world. By talking about everyday stuff, farmers sowing seeds, yeast and bread, weeds growing in a wheat field, he made these complex, divine mysteries instantly accessible to the folks just standing around listening on the beach. Take the mustard seed, for example. In the ancient world, the mustard plant grew so incredibly fast, it was almost like a garden weed that you just couldn't stop. So Jesus is brilliantly suggesting here that the kingdom of heaven isn't some conquering, sword-wielding army. Nope. It's an unstoppable organic movement that starts impossibly small but eventually grows huge and provides shelter for everyone. It's such a powerful visual. It reminds us that massive transformative change usually starts in these smallest, most unassuming ways, like a tiny seed of faith or just a single act of kindness.
But of course, human nature kind of gets in the way, right? Even his closest friends completely miss the point. Instead of focusing on the message, they're sitting there bickering over who gets to be the greatest in this new kingdom. They literally pull Jesus aside and ask him straight up, who then is greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Because they're still stuck in that old mindset. They're still thinking in terms of earthly status, power rankings, and worldly authority. So Jesus gives them a profound shock to the ego. He brings a little child right into the center of the group. Now remember, in the first century, kids had absolutely zero social status or rights. None. By placing a child right there in the middle, he tells them explicitly, unless you turn around and become as unassuming as little children, you won't even enter the kingdom of heaven, let alone be the greatest in it. True greatness isn't about climbing up the corporate ladder, so to speak. It's about climbing down to a place of total authentic humility. He challenges them on forgiveness too. Peter comes up and asks if forgiving someone 7 times is enough, and Jesus just shatters his expectations, saying no, 70 times 7. And he backs it up with this wild parable about a servant who gets a massive, multi-million-dollar debt wiped clean by a king, but then goes out and ruthlessly chokes a fellow servant who owes him mere pennies. The insight there is crystal clear. Love and mercy shouldn't have any limits. We have to extend boundless forgiveness to others simply because we've been given boundless grace ourselves. And as the narrative hurtles toward its climax, Jesus enters Jerusalem. But again, he completely flips the script. He doesn't ride in on a massive war horse like some conquering Roman general. He arrives peacefully on a lowly donkey. It is this brilliant piece of political and spiritual theater, perfectly fulfilling ancient prophecy by presenting a king who comes in humility. The crowds go wild, laying their clothes and tree branches on the road, shouting Hosanna. It's this moment of intense, joyful recognition, but it really just sets the stage for a dramatic shift in tone. Because that peaceful arrival, it turns into fierce confrontation almost immediately. Jesus marches straight into the temple and literally starts flipping tables. He's actively driving out everyone buying and selling, refusing to let this sacred space of prayer be corrupted into what he calls a predatory den of robbers. It's a bold, incredibly disruptive act, and it deeply angers the chief priests and scribes. For the religious authorities, this was absolutely the final straw. It puts the conspiracy against him into full motion. And that opposition sparks the ultimate betrayal. The religious leaders are plotting to take Jesus by deceit, mainly because they want to avoid a massive riot. So Judas, one of his inner circle, approaches them and just asks, "What are you willing to give me?" They agree on 30 pieces of silver. And get this, in ancient Jewish law, 30 pieces of silver was the exact price of a wounded slave. For that meager, insulting amount, one of his closest companions starts looking for the perfect opportunity to hand him over. What follows is just a night of agonizing emotional weight. First, there's the poignant Passover meal, where Jesus shares the bread and wine with his closest friends, knowing exactly what's about to happen. Then we see him in the Garden of Gethsemane, sweating in immense spiritual agony, while his friends literally fall asleep, unable to keep watch for even an hour. And then, finally, the crushing betrayal in the darkness, sealed with a kiss, as a huge crowd armed with swords and clubs breaks the silence to arrest him. Which brings us to the absolute darkest and most pivotal hour of the whole narrative. Jesus is crucified at Golgotha, and a supernatural darkness literally blankets the entire land right in the middle of the day. He cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" and yields up his spirit. And the moment he breathes his last, the massive veil in the temple tears completely in two from top to bottom. It's a profound symbol that the barrier between humanity and the divine has been permanently shattered. The earth quakes, and the Roman centurion standing right there watching it all can only conclude, truly, this was the Son of God.
But the story totally defies a tragic ending. Right at dawn, a violent earthquake hits and an angel looking like lightning rolls the stone away from the tomb. And this is fascinating. The text tells us that women, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, are the very first witnesses to this empty tomb. Now, in that culture, the testimony of women wasn't even accepted in court. So including this detail adds a stunning layer of historical authenticity. The angel tells them, "Don't be afraid. He is not here, for he has risen, just like he said." And they rush away, filled with fear and immense joy, to spread the word. Jesus joyfully reunites with his followers over in Galilee, and he leaves them with what we now call the Great Commission. He tells the 11 disciples that all authority in heaven and on earth is his, and he commands them, "Don't keep this a secret. Go to the absolute ends of the earth, teach, baptize, and spread this radical message of love and salvation to all nations." And he promises to be with them always, even to the very end of the age. So as we close the book on today's explainer, we're really left with a blueprint that has shaped all of human history, from a starry night in Bethlehem to a subversive teaching on a hillside, straight to an empty tomb. You see, the Gospel of Matthew isn't just an ancient record, it is an active, living challenge. If true greatness comes from humility, and if forgiveness is supposed to be limitless, how does this ancient story challenge the way you are living your life today? Something to really think about. Thank you so much for joining me, and keep seeking out the wisdom in these incredible texts.